Well, hey everybody, I thought I'd take the time to go through a presentation I typically do at different fly-ins around the country that I'm able to go to. Usually I've done this at the Zenith fly-in and also at Copper State here in Arizona. So for those of you who don't know, my side business, the thing that actually supports my aviation habit, is I do oil analysis. My day job is doing that as well, but I do oil analysis for a lot of experimental aircraft, heavy equipment, and a lot of other things out there. So figured I'd give you guys kind of an idea of why oil analysis is an important thing, especially for aircraft and other systems that you could be using. So if you want to check out my company, it's LNC Labs. If you're interested in buying oil sample kits, it's lnclabs.com. So let's go to the first slide here. So why oil analysis? Oil analysis is basically a scientific way of looking at the wear that's occurring within a lubricated system, engine, a transmission. It doesn't matter. What it does is it allows us to look at that data and come up with maintenance decisions. We can determine whether or not you've got too low of viscosity, if the viscosity is correct, are you thermally stressing the engine? So there's lots of good reasons why we do it. It's kind of like a blood test, just like going to the doctor. Typically not expensive. For aviation oil analysis, I typically charge $15 a kit. You can see prices between $15 to $20 per sample, so it really doesn't increase the cost of operating at all, really. And the real value in it is seeing the trends that are produced, specifically wear metals, viscosity degradation, things like that, that give you a clue into the health of the motor or the system. So these are reasons against it. I've actually heard each one of these either from an AMP or from it depends. You'd be surprised what you hear. So I saw this, believe it or not, this one I heard. As long as I don't see a part number on the piece of metal in the filter, I'm good to go. If you see that big a particle in the oil, you got much, much bigger problems. What we're trying to look for is those really small particles and trends. Here, I got my phone blowing up on me. Hold on. I'll talk to him later. Anyway, so yeah, you don't want to see those really large particles because that's when you know that there's an imminent failure going to occur in that engine. This is one that I hear a lot too. It adds a lot of cost to my routine maintenance. If we're in aviation, if you're worried about $15, I mean, you chose the wrong hobby. It really doesn't cost much. I actually do this on my cars. I do it on my aircraft. I do it on anything that I have that's oil lubricated because it's going to give me a good indication of the health of that system and help me make maintenance decisions in the future. This is one that a lot of people I don't think quite understand, but you don't have to do oil analysis from the day you got the engine. Anytime you start doing oil analysis is a good idea. The idea is that you want to start that trend. You want to start looking at that information. You want to start putting it together and learning what's normal for your engine. Well, you're looking for to make those decisions what's not normal. And when you find out what's not normal, that's when you can actually save a lot of money by heading off those large maintenance items before they become critical or they fail. This is another one that a lot of people don't think, well, I did a compression test, a regular inspection. I mean, what can this tell me that a compression test and inspection won't? The answer is a lot. And I'll get to that a little later, but there's a lot of things you're only going to be able to see in oil analysis that you wouldn't catch in a typical inspection. This is one that I hear from a lot of experimenters. Oh, this is going to double the cost of my oil change. May be true if you're using the cheapest oil down at going straight to Walmart and buying the cheapest filter you can. It might double the cost, but typically you're looking at about $30 to $40 to do an oil change, just realistically between oil, filter, and everything else you're going to do while you're in there. Adding another $15 is not going to really affect the overall cost of you operating that motor. And obviously there's always the insert your favorite conspiracy theory. Oh, it's whatever. But the honest answer is it's not an expensive thing to do, and it does provide a lot of insight into the operation of your engine. So what do? I think these are the most important things, specifically talking about aviation oil analysis that we look at. And number one is obviously viscosity. You want to make sure that the oil that you're using is still the grade and type of oil that you're expecting. If you see that viscosity shifting, it can mean one of two things. If you see it shifting to a thicker oil, so instead of being a 40 weight oil, it's starting to trend towards a 50 weight or maybe even a 60 weight oil, what that's telling you is that you've got something occurring that's thickening the oil. And that can be typically what causes that is excessive thermal heat or thermal soaking of the oil. And what that does is it removes all of the lighter or really small components of the oil and causes it to actually thicken up. A lot of times we see this in guys that operate lean to peak. This is one that we see a little bit of a viscosity shift. The other thing we see on that is that thermal breakdown process, that oxidation. And oxidation, just as in the terms of what we're talking about here, it's a chemical process which is caused by thermally loading the oil. And when we thermally load that oil, it's going to cause it to thicken up because we're losing a lot of those smaller carbon compounds from the oil that causes it to kind of congeal and get thicker. Another one that's critically important is the wear metals and contaminants. What we're looking for is specific trends and relationships to trends. So when we look at the metal profiles, things like, just as a typical one, if you see copper, tin, and lead together, now lead is a hard one for aviation because we run leaded fuels, but if you see copper and tin together increase, the bearings on the inside of the motor contain those metals, and when you see those trend together, you know that you're starting to produce wear on those surfaces. When you're looking at other things, like for example copper by itself, if it doesn't have anything else trending with it, can be indicative of the oil cooler starting to have certain failure modes. So when we track all of these things, we learn a lot about what's happening inside the motor. For those guys using, especially in experimental aviation, guys using Rotaxes, Viking engines, some of the others, glycol is another one, because you got to remember, when we see glycol, we are seeing it in very small quantities before you see that head gasket failure. And a head gasket failure in a liquid-cooled motor is a much more critical event than you'd see in a head gasket failure in an air-cooled motor. The other thing is, every engine is unique, and every engine is going to have different variations. But there are general rules that we use to assess each one of the motors. For example, Lycomings and Continentals typically like to be about 2 parts per million iron per hour of operation. Some motors are higher, some motors are lower, but learning what your engine does gives you insight into the operation and when you know your engine is operating normally. And again, this is the point here. You need to know what your engine's normal is, and when you know that, that's where you're going to get the biggest benefit from this product. So considerations. What you need to know about every single laboratory on the market is this. They all know certified aircraft engines. Everybody's got a huge database on Lycoming, Continentals, and to some extent Franklin's. These are very known, even the replicas. These things are very normal for them to look at it on a normal basis. The other thing is turbine engines. A lot of these labs do a lot of work on the PT6As, and if you look here, I've got a reference to a technical manual from an organization called the Joint Oil Analysis Program. That's a military run system, and they have all kinds of data showing what's normal for all of these different engines, and each one of the manufacturers has their own recommendations. So these certified legacy engines are very well known. Auto conversions are a different story. Some labs, like I specialize in looking at the Corvairs, obviously, but there's other some of these other ones are not very well trended. Like there's not much on the Vikings at all. Nobody's really doing any Viking oil analysis. Same thing with Subaru. VWs are another one. Not a lot of data out there on these because these guys are not really taking advantage of that. So because of that, there's not a lot of information. There's a lot more information on Corvairs now because we made a concerted effort to get that data. And we've got some very good understanding of Corvair oil analysis now. There are other aero engines that, again, are starting to see some, the UL series, the Rotax, they're starting to develop because some oil analysis programs and those, but they're not, none of these are as well established as looking at the certified or those legacy type engines. What makes those types of engines, when we're talking about auto conversion, what makes them different is this. Certified engines typically don't have PRSUs. Now, some do have gearboxes, but there are not very many that have PRSUs, either geared or belt driven. That adds some difference to how the oil analysis is interpreted. The other difference is think about the RPMs they operate. When in flight training, if you were in a Piper or anything like that, and you were operating that engine, you typically saw RPMs in about let's call it 2,400 to 2,600 RPM range. Well, you get into a Rotax or a Viking or some of those PRSU motors, and you'll realize you're running 4,500 to 5,500 RPMs. That's going to have its own considerations when you're looking at how the oil analysis needs to be done. Corvair and UL Power have a little bit of an easier time because these are direct drive applications, and they're really similar to what you see in some of the legacy applications. Other things about them, think about carbureted versus fuel injection, turbocharged. All of these things lead into the differences that you have to make in considerations when looking at aero-converted engines versus looking at a standard legacy motor. When you look at this here, variables that I want to talk about is all of the things I just talked about make interpreting the data different. So if you want the best data you can, the lab needs to have the best information they can get about your motor. Now, that doesn't mean you need to give a full, detailed rundown of every single part. But if you're putting in an oil analysis or oil samples for a non-standard engine, they need to know, is it turbocharged? Is it direct drive? Does it have a PRSU? Is it got flat tappet lifter? Is it flat tappet or roller lifter? Those things all go into how the data is actually interpreted. So I want to talk about the story. These are some things that I mentioned. People think that just doing an inspection without doing the oil analysis is actually a good idea. This is story one. This is when I just kind of got started. This came across what I was doing. We were looking at a low-time V35 Bonanza 470 engine, and at the annual, the motor had great compression. There was it was like mid-70s over 80, so the differential compression test looked perfect. But when we looked at the oil analysis, there was a ton of iron in it and a little bit of chromium, and I was looking at this and I thought about it, and I called the A&P up, and I said, look, I think there's an issue with the cam and the lifters. Well, lo and behold, he pulled the valve covers off and looked, and each one of the lifters, of the rocker arms anyways, had lost 20 thousandths in total lift. Well, when he dug in deeper, each one of the tappets, the lifters, was completely trashed. It ended up, even though the motor made great differential compression, when we looked at it a little further and it was actually inspected with the oil analysis, it turned out that this motor needed a complete lower end overhaul. Again, it was actually a low-time motor. I think it only had like 400 hours on it, but because the differential compression and all those other stuff didn't catch the problem, we only caught it in the oil analysis. We did save that owner the possibility of loss of power. So again, very simple thing. You might as well use it. All right, story number two. This was actually from an experimental owner. What happened here was we saw a huge spike in copper, and this is actually on a Corvair motor, and there's only a couple sources of copper in the Corvair motor. You're either going to see it on the back of the crank. There's actually a bronze distributor drive gear, and the other place you're going to see it by itself is actually from the oil cooler. So called the owner up, we talked about it, talked to William Wynn, and we went back and forth, and this guy actually went out and he inspected like he should and discovered that the bronze drive gear was actually failing. Now, had that completely failed in flight, that motor would have lost all spark because the distributor drive gear drives the distributor, which drives the spark. So again, something that we caught in oil analysis that would not have been caught in a routine inspection. So here's the takeaways. If you're trying to make and do a very professional maintenance program for your aircraft, you really should incorporate oil analysis. It's minimal cost, has a lot of benefits that are fairly easy to see. You can really understand a lot more about what's going on in your motor. big takeaway is this: it's cheap insurance. For $15, give or take, you're able to get a good look at the performance of your motor at that time, make a decision, and either address it or just know, hey, this thing is operating just as it should. Anyways, a little different for you guys. I thought I would give you, this is what I typically do at a forum. If you guys have any questions, put them in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time.